In this video, I'll talk about the whole personal interaction process in Ahmedabad University. I will start by describing the whole process, and then I'll move on to talking about my experience as to what were the questions that were asked to me and how did I respond to them, and then drawing conclusions from those answers. I'll give you some tips on how you can do good in your personal interaction. So if you're interested, let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Pushkar and I'm a student in Ahmedabad University. Let's start by talking about the personal interaction process. Now that you have filled your form and the university has liked your application, then they call you out for a personal interview. Now what happens in a personal interview? Now what happened with me was we were 3 people on a Zoom call. Then we called out for a personality test. Now the personality test was sort of basic. There were different questions where you had to respond to that. Do you agree to this or do you disagree to this? To give you an example, let's say there is a question. You found a friend cheating on an exam and you reported them to the dean. Strongly agree or strongly disagree, agree, disagree or neutral. This is a highly diplomatic question, but the question there would be much better. And yeah, so that was the question we were asked on a personality test. Now after we took the test, we were split out into breakout rooms, 1 person each, and then I had 2 professors who took an interview with me for about 15 minutes, and the interview ended, and after some days I got the provisional offer for Ahmedabad University. What happens in a personal interview? What were the questions that were asked to me and how did I respond to them? So the first question that they asked to me was about my background, like my family background, where did I grow up, how was my schooling, and how many people are there in my family. And the answer is fairly basic, just talk about your family, nothing special needed here. The second question was about my shift from the science background to the social sciences background, because I was studying physics, chemistry, maths, electronics and computer science in class 12th, and now that I'm majoring in psychology, they wanted to know that why am I making this shift. So I answered that question. The next question was, why are you choosing psychology? So I had a solid answer for that. The next question was about Ahmedabad University, like why are you choosing Ahmedabad University, what's the particular motive of choosing Ahmedabad University. So I answered that because of its liberal nature, that is why I wanted to choose Ahmedabad University. So then they asked me a few questions about psychology. Now I know this is a part where you might be concerned about, like, would they ask me questions about my subject. Now to be honest, this interview is a personality test. They don't really check how skilled you are, the skill part is earlier, but this is about your personality. So I won't really bother that much about studying so much for this interview, but yeah, a few basic things here and there, but if you don't know the answer, it's fine. I mean, in my case in psychology, they asked the question was actually not that good enough because these professors were not psychology professors, and they admitted to that, which is full respect. They said that we don't really know a lot about psychology. I was like, cool, okay, fine. And yeah, so they asked me a few questions. I gave a few answers which were not exact, but yeah, it worked. And then they asked me about the current happenings. So back then there was some sort of a global geopolitical situation which I didn't know back then, and I don't remember now. And then they asked me, and I honestly said that I don't read news. Whatever news that I want to get, I get it from newsletters. And then they advised me to like read newspapers, it really helps and so on. And then they asked me like, what are your future plans, like what are you trying to do? And I told them my future plans, and then we closed the interview, and I got accepted in Ahmedabad University. Now we can draw some conclusions based on the answer that I gave in the interview, and I can like give some points on how you can do well in the interview. So the first thing, as I've said before, is like this interview is about your personality and not about how skilled you are. So crack this interview, you should sort of know yourself better, like know what you like, know what you dislike, know what you want to do in life, why are you choosing Ahmedabad University, and why are you choosing the course that you are choosing. And if you are an undeclared major, you should have some preferences in your mind, like okay, you should be inclined to something, or you should be curious about something at least. In terms of answering the questions, there is no particular science to answering these questions, but I particularly choose to answer in form of stories. Now before I move on, I really want to like give this disclaimer that if you're watching this video before 1 or 2 hours of an interview, or even before 1 day of your interview, like ignore the story point, you don't really need it, but it's just how I answer these questions. So even to the most simplest questions, I answer in a story format, and I do that because first, I am naturally good in answering in a story way, and second is because I've taken a lot of interviews, so these stories are like etched in my mind, and they are like solid bulletproof stories, and I can always say that. Now when I call them stories, these are not something that I've made up. These are just my real life experiences which I've bundled up in a story format. So when they asked me like why did I choose from going to science background to a social sciences background, I didn't just say that I wanted to study psychology. They said that college, or in junior college as in Mumbai, I used to study computer science, physics, maths, electronics, but whenever I used to come home, I used to like open my bookshelf and find all books of psychology there. And so I just wanted to like not stop this curiosity, I wanted to kindle that curiosity, and that's why I chose psychology. Now this is a bit dramatic, but you get the point, right? I didn't have plain blatant answer like like because I wanted to study psychology. I gave those answers in a form of story. Now you can choose this if you want to, if you have time, or if you are good at storytelling, say it in a story format, it helps. But if you don't have time, just forget about it, and it doesn't really matter, it's not that big of a point. But the really crucial point here is that there is no exact science to cracking the interview. Like there is no one way of answering these questions. There is no one thing that you will do that will help you clear the personal interview. Focus on the word personal in the personal interaction process. It's highly personal, everyone gets asked different questions. The main way to do good in this interview, and I know this sounds cringe, but be you, like be authentic, be you. Say things honestly, it will go well. If they have accepted your application and they have called you for a personal interaction, they like your application and they want you in the university. Just be you, be authentic, and it will all be fine. And yeah, that was it for the video. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments below. And yeah, stay ambitious, stay curious, and stay weird. I'll see you next time.